Right, folks, welcome back to Brew Time. And this week we've got Carl and Steve from Mac Motorcycle? Yeah, it is motorcycle. Accident claims. How you doing, chaps?
Hi, Bruce. How you doing? Fine,
Yeah,
thanks.
all good, man. All good. This is weird. Carl and I kind of know each other. Have we actually ever met face to face?
Did I see it at CSS at Superbike School?
Possibly. Oh, have we? Did we? Did we meet there?
Yeah, yeah.
All
Well,
right.
that,
We've been chatting for years, haven't we, on the
yeah,
phone and emails
yeah,
and
yeah,
stuff. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
The bike industry is a small place, mate, isn't it?
Very much so. Yeah, yeah. You figure that out. You don't want to hack anyone off because it's a very small little circle, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, right. So, what's the story with Mac? Is this a new company, or have you been around for a while?
Well, well, mate, it's a new brand of a leading law firm that's been
Okay.
around for absolute donkeys. And I'll let Steve cover a bit on the law firm bit.
Sure.
But in essence, it's a point that three of us, talking away at opportunities in the industry, things that something needs to be done about. As you know from my past working at BMoto, where it was the only brand to make insurance cool and actually explain some of the things that were behind, like the key frustrations of the consumer,
Yeah.
i.e., us, the bikers that always seem to be paying through the nose for enjoying our passion. So having been on that journey, one of the other guys that's involved has been in the claims industry for years and been a part of the big brands that have, made a lot of good things happen for people.
Mm.
And then it came together with Steve as an equity partner in a leading law firm that's done some amazing things and has excellent client care. And through those conversations, this new brand's been born. And would you believe it that the name Motorcycle Accident Claims on the website was available? So that'll give you an idea of potentially how little like people think about bikers and claims that they have on the road. And the opportunity simply was to try and provide more value for people who don't need us than those that are just there when people do need them. And that's what everything else it tends to be about. The phrase that we use is a distressed purchase.
Mm.
People tend to find themselves in a claim one day that they've never planned, of course. And then they're landed in the lap of a solicitor that they've got no idea about, they've never met before, they've potentially just been put onto them by an insurer, and they feel that's where they have to go. But yet, if they were getting their bike repaired, they'd probably try 3 or 4 different garages and do it on personality, relationship, trust, recommendation. And for
Yeah.
something that's way more important, it potentially all goes out the window and they just, settle, if you like. So yeah, it's something that as a collaboration of people have come together with an idea and got something off the ground, which is nice.
Yeah, my experience of having to use insurance and repairers and things like that. Sadly, I've got quite a bit of. I went through a spate a few years ago, maybe 5 years ago now, where in the space of I think 2 years, I had something like four incidents, accidents, all in and out of London. Just I had nothing for like a decade, and all of a sudden, within 2 years, I was knocked off like 4 times, and it was a really my experience of it all is it's a really confusing system to go through when you get involved in an accident, especially if your bike is like taken away at the scene, if it gets recovered, because the last you see of the bike is when, you've just been clobbered off of it. And then it all seems to disappear. You get umpteen phone calls from loads of different people. Solicitors seem to have like a red phone somewhere that second you've been knocked off, all these solicitors start calling you. And I got to admit, for me, I had no idea if that solicitor was allocated from the insurance company or not. It's just random people phoning up. And then you hear nothing about your bike for what feels like months. It's probably weeks. But I definitely learnt I had to do the chasing to keep the ball rolling. Otherwise, things just sat around for months with nothing happening. So in the case of an accident, what happens? How does motorcycle accident claims? What role do you take then? If I get involved in an accident, when do you come in?
Well, basically, we've got a membership plan. We've got the website. We've got the sort of wraparound care number, as I call it. And Cal's probably got another name for it. And basically, we're at the end of the phone. I think a lot of the conversations we've had so far are you mentioned, and you're absolutely right. There's too many cooks getting into the kitchen with all these claims. You've got a credit hire company who's giving you a bike. You've got someone repairing it. You've got your insurance company, brokers there. What we've tried to do is sort of put it all under one roof. Between the three of us, we've got insurance experience and what have you. So anyone who calls in, even if it's for a fault accident, who just want to know what to do with the bike, to someone who's actually been injured or whatever like that, we'll take the initial detail, have a good chat with them, and just find out where they're at and what they need. Sometimes it's just a case of just some comfort as to what to do next. Because as Carl says, it's a distress purchase and people are in a lot of pain if they've had a bad accident, don't know where the bike is, the police have taken it somewhere else, or the bike's in the garage in bits, and they just don't know where to begin with it. And they've got all these people harassing them essentially. So we're just at the end of the phone, end of an email, end of an inquiry, just to sort of get in touch straight away, which we try and do within 24 hours if we don't pick up straight away, where we can just give them a bit of comfort, see where they're at, and just provide that advice, even if there's nothing in it for us from a point of view of any ongoing care or anything that they might need, just point them in the right direction. Or we one or two cases recently actually take up the cudgel for them and deal with their insurance company for them. So because it is, to the uninitiated, it's an absolutely bewildering process. And as you say, I don't know how these companies get hold of it, but a lot of the insurance companies have what's called third-party capture teams. So God forbid, you've had an accident on the way home and rear-ended someone. They will then say, is it all right if we contact them and get in touch? And you give them permission as the policyholder, and that's someone else that's calling them. So it's just, and there's so many different protocols out there these days as well. I think I often get asked, do I need a solicitor to sort of deal with this? And you don't necessarily, but it'll be a lot easier. And you've got an independent legal advice from someone who knows what they're doing and does this day in, day out. It can just sort of make it a little bit simpler, because it is a very, very confusing process, and there's all sorts of mixed messages out there as well.
Okay. So in terms of a biker, then I would have to take out my insurance as normal. I'd need to have my breakdown recovery of some kind, whatever that is, your roadside assistance type thing. And then you take out, did you say you take out a subscription to Mac as well then?
Well, so there's two ways people can contact Mac. Effectively, the brand, the solicitors are there like every other solicitor that you could call in the scenario and get some advice from. The difference being, like we said, about providing more value to people who don't need their services. That's because that's the majority of the bike market, or so we hope, Like, hope that you never have to call the number. But
of course.
You'd rather it was someone good that would look after you. Effectively, you can come through the door as a customer any day of the week. The brand is starting to front load the value and offer a free membership where people can sign up to it. They basically have free legal advice at the end of the phone in the event that they've got a bit of risk control, in the event that they find themselves in some other curious situation where they need some legal advice, or, they're being accused of something, or someone's, made a fool of themselves on the road and they're trying to blame the biker that was going too fast, when in reality they were doing 20 miles an hour but had a loud exhaust. In advance, being aware of this stuff is part of the education piece that the brand is doing, because, like you say, it's bewildering. And if you call up through your membership and say, I need some legal advice because I've been pulled over, no problem, it's there, it's free of charge. Down the line, wherever that takes you, then, if you do have to enlist a solicitor for some support, then preferential rates kick in and all of that sort of stuff. So the membership front loads value in case. If worst happens and someone takes you off your bike, you make a single phone call and there at the roadside, you get legal advice. And, imagine being in the back of an ambulance, you're a little bit woozy, you're worried about whether your bike's been recovered yet, you've got loads of people talking to you, and then someone there, a copper, has a job to do and asks you some questions. And through a mixture of things, you say something that can be taken out of context. What then? In every other circumstance, you'll make a call to get your bike recovered. That'll then be passed on to a legal team. Then they'll then speak to you after that. And fair play. We're not saying that there aren't good people out there in any of those jobs, but the reality is they won't always be there. So the chances are you're not going to get that good advice at the time. If you're on your own, which you most likely will be on a bike, and if you're not, your pillions come off with you. Who's going to make all these phone calls? Who's going to worry about all these things? Who's going to tell your family at home who were expecting you back 15 minutes ago? There's all of these things that are left, up in the air. And in reality, it's just about saying, well, we'll take care of that and you don't worry about it and you focus on recovery. So at whatever point people come into the journey, whether it's through the membership or afterwards, the wraparound care will kick in at the appropriate point. But you will have the choice as to whether you take it to your insurer's approved repairer. If you don't know anybody better, then that's probably, just as good as anything else. Or bikes are a personal thing. You may have a local garage or a dealer that's working on them for you. You probably want them to look after it because they're the ones that have put your mods on. They're the ones that have looked after your bike since you bought it. So peace of mind, because your bike sometimes is just as important as your leg that might be hanging off.
Yeah.
You know where it is. You know that you can pick up the phone to them. You can get updates. Chances are, in that scenario, they've got a good relationship with you. You'll get a phone call or a text letting you know what stage your bike's at. In cases where bikes have suffered some damage, they do the old valuation thing. Most people wouldn't know that that's challengeable. Most people wouldn't know that they can get a second opinion on that. They would just assume that the Glasses Guide or whatever's on eBay is the price to go by. But again, what about modifications? What about the fact that you might be out of pocket for something that wasn't your fault to begin with? Is that right? So just having someone around you that knows all these things is going to make a difference. And the only point that we'd kind of make is, if you haven't got someone that knows bikes, are they going to think about all of these things? And that's, as you say, bewildering from the point that you've been taken off to do you need legal advice, to when is your bike being recovered, to who's going to tell your insurer, to who's going to tell someone at home, to, you're going to be at the hospital for 12 hours. Should the other half or whoever go rushing down the hospital straight away? There's all these questions in between all of those stages, but just to have someone there that knows what they're doing, has been through it 100 times, by us educating people in advance of that, all of a sudden that life-changing scenario isn't as bad as it could be, because someone's got your back. And that's what the brand's about in the worst case. But at other times, we want to do fun stuff. We go to shows, we want to go on rides with people. The sort of places I've worked before, it's all about the fun stuff and all the bits that happen around the usual. And that's our way of educating and getting that picture out there, because sadly, myself included, first time you find out about it is the minute you have a claim.
When you need it, yeah. Okay, so you convinced me. You've got the sale. How does that work? Is it like insurance? Is it based entirely on an individual circumstances, or is there a flat membership fee?
There will, in the future, be a flat membership fee. For now, the people that get it, the membership will be free for life for as long as it exists.
I think what we identified, and there's three like-minded people, myself, Carl and Paul, involved in this, and who've come together by probably more coincidence than a thankful coincidence, is I'm a solicitor, but I've also worked for an insurance brokerage. I've also worked for an accident management company in my career. Carl, similarly. Paul's been around the industry as long as he has. So we know there's that many different ways to skin the cat. And just going back to your earlier point, quite often my conversations with clients are after the event, when not just the damage has been done, but after they've got themselves into a pickle. And we've identified a niche, we think, if we can get this membership plan in front of people from the beginning, from the get-go, so they've got that wraparound care where they can get some advice before they go falling down rabbit holes and things like that. It is very, very useful. So the membership plan there at the moment is free. And it's a plan, not a legal expenses policy or anything like that. But in that plan, you get access to, as I say, my firm, Wilkin Chapman, full range of legal services behind that. And we just then will discuss with whoever's phoned up for any advice, or just point them in the right direction sometimes. Or, right, okay, you used an example before of a speeding offence. Give some initial advice, which hopefully will fend it off. If it then becomes more serious further on down the line, they can then come back to us. And then we talk about what it might cost to defend it, or what the options are at that stage. And a lot of it is educational from that point of view, just because there's three great pots of experience sat around the table who've skinned the cat on a number of occasions, and we can cut out a lot of the jargon and find the right solution depending on everyone's different situation. Whether it's my insurance company's only offered me a fraction on what my bike's worth, to what do I do with this speeding offence, to is it a fault accident, is it a non-fault accident, or the premium's gone up. There's just lots of experience just to point people in the right direction sometimes, and it might not lead to anything from say a personal injury claim point of view, which you'd expect from the brand image we've got, but it's there to be the full range of legal services to the motorbike community, which are a great community to engage with at the best of times anyway.
Can I ask, because you were talking about, giving advice as to what to say at the scene. Say you've been stopped for speeding or something like that. Is there like something the biker should say, like in an ideal situation? Obviously, from a previous life, when we dealt with the scrotes, it was always no comment, and that used to wind me up no end. But it was down to me as a copper to prove, the evidence. If I was asking somebody about something and they said no comment, well, it's down to me to prove it. And is there something that a biker can say?
Well, I think I'm trying to avoid the cliche
Obviously,
answer
it's a
to that,
delicate.
really.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to go a bit biblical, really. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. I think less is definitely more when you're in that kind of situation, because most people who have an accident or get pulled over, the instant reaction is apologetic. I'm really, really sorry. But they don't actually mean it till after the event. And it's just, your heart's running at 1,000 beats a minute and all sorts of things. So I think you just got to be quiet, calm and considered with it. And if need be, just listen to what the police officer or whoever's sort of saying to you, do what you need to do. But obviously, sort of try and keep what you say to a minimum, because what you don't want to do is be holding your hands up to an accident, for example, or saying it was me or whatever like that. Just take the information on board there and then keep your answers to a minimum, and then just let the process, once you've got us involved after that and away from the scene and you've calmed down a little bit as well, take place, really. So, because I think we all inadvertently blurt things out sometimes, and I think that's always the worry, because your adrenaline's kicking in and all sorts of things. It's afterwards, when you've calmed down and had a cup of tea or a beer or whatever like that you suddenly think, oh God, why did I say that? It's and the cold light of day, and you've had a night's sleep on it, you see it very differently.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is something that used to get drilled into us in the old bill as well, about, for us when we were giving our evidence, evidence of arrest, or if we were writing a statement, but also when you take a statement from a victim or a witness or something like that, you can swear blind. Within 24 hours, you can swear blind that blue is blue, red is red, tall is tall, short is short. But 24 hours later, your recollection of that can be 48 hours later, your recollection can be totally different. I know in the firearms world, we were always told you would write a very brief, basic statement, if there were shots fired. And that's just your initial recollection. Then they would basically say, right, we're not going to leave and look at you for another 24, sometimes 48 hours later. And then you come back and give you detailed evidence. And that's why, is because of trauma and everything that's going on at the time, you just don't get an accurate recollection certainly within those first hours. So that's interesting what you said there about, less is often best, and just, sit back, let everything happen at the scene, and then afterwards, then you can start filling in the blanks almost.
And this is what goes back to our plan, was the niche, and I know hopefully don't sound like a stuck record, but quite often people have come and spoken to me as a solicitor a month or so or weeks after the event, and whereas there's a lot of things to unravel then, or sometimes you can't even possibly unravel it, and so in case of getting in there early, or giving people access to that advice and that service early on, just nips a lot of problems in the bud, I think. So with the best will in the world, people think they can sort it out themselves, and there's just so many different factors and intervening influences that you can easily get dragged down the wrong road. Even sometimes by the defendant insurance company, they'll say, "Oh, we'll take care of you, we'll sort it all out." And then there's the funding of these things as well with some of the other players out there as well. The whole idea was just to try and provide a simplified process. And we launched the brand at the Motorcycle Live event in Birmingham, which was a great event. And so many conversations along those lines were, it's, what is it they say? Hindsight's a wonderful thing. Yeah. And there was so many wonderful conversations with wonderful people along those lines. But it just, if only I'd been able to speak to them 6-12 months ago or something like that. And then that's the general feeling you get sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. My own experience, I wasn't aware that you could. I wasn't aware that you could choose your own legal firm to act in your behalf. I wasn't aware that you could argue the toss with evaluations. Initially, I wasn't aware you could decide where your bike was taken for repair and all these sort of things. So to begin with, you literally just nod your head and You know, whoever phones and tells you something, you just go with them, don't you? So yeah, hindsight, as you just said, having been involved in it quite a few times now, definitely this is an ideal situation, really. Just having you guys as the go-between to make sure all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed and take the hassle out of it.
Yeah, well, anecdotally, that exact thing that you've gone through there, where you just kind of compliance, isn't it? You know,
Yeah, you do, yeah.
The process. It's the same reason that some people get themselves in trouble, you know, and I should say nothing that I say constitutes legal advice because I'm not that clever. But you see people that are of a certain generation or a certain upbringing that will comply. Well, if you said I've done that, I must have done, I'm sorry. You know, well, if you say my bike has to go there, I'm not going to say anything because you're telling me my bike has to go there. People are programmed in certain scenarios to behave a certain way with an authoritative process. So you do go along with things, and whilst you're not willing, you're not unwilling either. And the education is purely about giving people choices, you know. And in a lot of cases where people might come for advice, if they're already being looked after by someone, there's nothing to stop us saying, look, you're being looked after. Nothing for us here. Actually, it doesn't sound bad, you know. Or ask them these questions, and actually, you know, if you want to come over to us, that's fine. But we might cause a delay where we wouldn't do if you just ask them these questions and it goes back on track. So good luck. And then people will always remember that it wasn't about, you know, the sales pitch, the spam, the coercing phone call, you know, all that sort of stuff. Because it's a much longer, wholesome sort of foundation to a relationship. So, you know, even just getting into the membership, it's like, well, you know, we want everybody to have it. As a biker myself, someone that's experienced the claim, I would love to have known about these things at the time. How do we get that into as many people's hands as possible? Well, you know, we go around to the events, even the small ones. We get onto podcasts, we speak to people. We're always engaging with people all the time, and put on a great competition. Like at the minute, we're giving away a Yamaha XSR 700 Legacy, a brand new one. Bunch of kit with it from Oxford, Technologic helmet camera, over 10 grand's worth of kit all in. We could have just thrown that money at Google and did some ads, or we put something like that together that's quite exciting. And I think the last bike competition was at the NEC, you know.
How do we win this bike?
Well, I've sent you a link, Bruce, to share with your people. And basically they follow that link. It's a simple sign up. It's not going to be used for sales calls or anything like that. But if you win, we will ask you the information to make sure that it's you, so make sure it's right. But that will automatically enter them into the competition. Any future free subscriber competition, so you're not going to get spammed saying enter again. You'll just automatically be entered, and one day the phone might ring and we'll hopefully be giving you something cool. And they'll automatically get the free legal membership, which will exist for as long as that does. So, you know,
awesome. Well, that link will be down below, folks. So if you're watching the vid, check out the description. If you're listening to the podcast, have a look at the show notes. The link will be there. Apologies for interrupting, folks, but a quick shout out for this week's sponsors, who this week are Ultimate Addons. Bit of spiel to read out for them. Ultimate Addons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure and easily accessible, the Ultimate Addons product range is ideal for any rider, from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Addons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Addons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Addons. It's all about the journey. Now, if you head to Ultimate Addons, links down below, it's just Ultimate with ADDONS, all one word, ultimateaddons.com. Use the code TeapotOne, that's Teapot with ONE at the end, TeapotOne, then you'll get 10% off their entire product range. That also works for Dango Design UK as well. I've never had any vibration issues with the cases that I use. I've got one for my iPhone and I use the Hex sort of strap. It's in the pedal cycle section. It's just like a ratchet strap which allows you to pretty much attach it to absolutely anything, and then your case attaches to that. So a massive thank you to Ultimate Addons for their continued support. Let's find out a little bit about yourselves then. So Steve, you're a solicitor. You come from the legal background.
Indeed.
Are you a biker?
No, I'm not a biker. I grew up on the back of my dad's bike as a child.
Anyway, Carl, let's chat to you.
I was waiting. I could try and bluff it out, but I think I'd be being disrespectful to you and all your listeners, to be fair. So, but no, what put me off biking as a teenager was, as I say, having grown up on the back of my dad's bike, was insurance premiums. And just in case my accent doesn't give it away, I'm from Manchester, where we get penalised on premiums anyway. So. And then just started a career in the law doing personal injury work. So I've been a personal injury lawyer, fee earner, call it what you will, for 25 years plus now, and ended up dealing with an awful lot of motorbike claims, and that even more made me a little bit sort of unsure about it. However, I have to say, having spent too much time with this gentleman and 9 days at the Birmingham Motorcycle Show, where I'm kind of, I'm like that at the moment. So
do it.
Speak to me. I might be. And I turned 50 just before Christmas, so I think I'm fitting the demographics, so I'm told. And what midlife crisis, eh?
It's not a midlife crisis.
No,
it's a coming of age. It's a coming of age thing. So realization.
Well, they're beautiful bikes, and I had a good wander around the NEC, and I have to say, I think it's reignited something in there. If that answers your question.
Do it.
Absolutely, yeah, that's it.
Carl, you got to get him on one. You got to get him do his stats.
I mean, I'm probably just a bigger hypocrite. I grew up in London, security industry, all that sort of stuff. Got into consulting and that sort of thing. Ended up wholesaling bike products by accident. Traveling down to London quite a bit. I didn't want to pay the parking fees at the train station. It was cheaper to have a scooter, or so I thought. But I absolutely hated the idea of getting on a bike because, from working down in London, every 15 minutes there was a courier coming through, nearly taking your wing mirror off and
wacky races.
Organ donors, it was like that. So I was willing to sell my incredibly cool street cred for a twist and go scooter. I went and did the CBT, but at the end of it, they offered a taster session on a grown-up bike. I said, no, absolutely not. I can't stand the thought of it. But my buddy was going to go and do it, and they were going to make me sit out on the curb, mate. I thought, well, if it's
wanker.
If it's not going to cost me anything, I might as well go out on it. So the next day at Wheels Motorcycles in Peterborough, put down a deposit on a GSX 1250 FA ST,
nice
Sports Touring Edition. And,
first bike 1250.
Yeah, do you know why?
Happy days.
Insurance premium on that was 500 quid.
Really?
And if I was going to get a Phaser 8 or a Phaser 1000 that I was looking at, what I wanted, it was going to be 1,600 to £2,000 for the first.
Wowza.
And I found it out purely by mistake. And actually, it was a joke that the sales guy made. And he said, "Oh, you might as well look at one of those because sports tourer is bound to be less." And he was right. But I was using it to commute down to London. And it was great for what it was. It was heavy. And then since then, the weird and wonderful sort of taste that then develops as you suddenly realise that it's a way of life. And I'm not being cliche there. I could not have been further away from that, all those years ago. And I've ridden most bikes and loved all of them. Mm-hmm. But I'm currently a predominant member of the agricultural motorcycling division. And I have
you got the tractor? Excellent.
Well, the majority ride is a Harley Road Glide at the minute, the ST.
All right, yeah.
And which I never, again, would never have thought.
I'd never put you down as a Harley rider. Wow.
I know. I surprise myself to this day.
Aren't they surprising though, the Harleys, when you ride them? Because I rode one almost. I almost didn't. There was a mate of mine as a salesman over at Guildford, and he was on at me to go and try them for ages and ages and ages. And in the end, I just sort of agreed to do it to keep him quiet. And I rode it. And it was the big road glide as well. It might be the street glide. I rode it and I was just like, I'm not going to buy one, but I really get it. I understand it now.
Yeah. I mean, I've made quite a few fiscal decisions with bikes, which I never thought would be the case again. I'd happily take a Thundercat out, one that's probably 1,500 quid, 30,000 miles, bit rough, but ultimately functional and quite enjoy it, But there's just been something about them throughout where there's just not anything like it. I think it's the unconventional riding position, the fact that your feet are forward. I think it boils down to I'm lazy. I think when it comes to riding them, I just like to kind of scooch into the corners. I enjoy being over the top of a bike and wrestling it around sharp bends. equally, I love having my feet up. I can't.
Yeah. No. It makes sense, doesn't it? When you ride them, and especially if it's a nice day, then it really makes sense.
Yeah.
In the pissing cold of a British winter, you're like,
Well, you say
what am I doing?
Mate, it's year round, and in fact, it's probably I had the fat bob before, the 114 fat bob, the T-bars. I went all cliches on that, moustache bars, ammo can hangers.
Did you have tassels? Did you have, what do they call them, those jodhpur things with tassels?
Not on the outside. I wanted to comply, but I didn't want anyone to see. It made me feel better if that was the answer to the
Nothing wrong. It's personal choice. Nothing wrong with that. Whatever.
But I tell you what, just if you wear Kevlar jeans and the casual bike boots, should we say, all day, when you leave the office or you leave home, you're literally just throwing your leg over a bike and riding in kit that is appropriate for the bike that you're riding. That was the biggest draw for me, because I got to spend more time enjoying it rather than constantly wrestling myself into a one piece or a two piece like I did when I was going down the motorway every day. And
I get that.
Oh. So yeah, surprising, and it grabs you, mate. And I can't explain how it grabs you, but once they've got you, that's the thing, because you'll get these. Like normally you take your bike in for a trade-in and wince. You're like, this is going to hurt. Well, they seem to make it sound as if like they're almost doing you a favour by giving you a new bike. And the price is a favour as well. And you're just captured in this like, hey, how is it so cheap? And I think it's just down to the retention and the desire of them. And I can't even explain that. Like, I wouldn't work in sales at Harley. I'd be sacked.
We've lost you, Carl. You've gone Harley. That's it. There's no getting you back, I think.
Well, I do ride on bikes, mate. Like, I do ride on personal.
Do you feel left out, Steve?
I do, actually. Yeah, I do all the time, actually. And I think we've been working together now for about just under 12 months. Yeah. And it's been an education. And it's called Fomo, I believe. Fear of missing out. So, as I say, next time you speak to me, you never know. I've done my CBT and all that kind of thing. I think, like Carl, I think once I get a taste for it, there'll be no looking back, because I think I've got one of those personalities. It's just taking that initial step.
All in. Yeah. Awesome.
It's funny because people say, they go, how can you, like, do I need a lawyer that's also a biker? And it's like, well, would you need a heart surgeon that was also a biker if that was your problem after an accident? Or you want someone that's good. They don't necessarily
good at what they do.
Yeah, exactly.
I think
that's a good point.
Experience with motorbike law and motorbike claims, because I was looking at some footage on a claim today, and you're looking at it from different angles, and it's a case that's come to us from the clients asked us to take it over from another firm, and they've completely knocked it away. And I'm looking at it, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, I think there's something in this one. I think it might be a 50-50, say. And I think that's where the experience and knowledge of dealing with these type of claims and who to go to for maybe a little bit of extra advice, because no one knows anything, but it's knowing who to go to. I've got a very good friend of mine who I've worked with over the years, who's a forensic accident reconstruction expert, and I got him to have a look at it. And he did a pedestrian claim for us 12 months ago, and the barrister didn't like it, but by the time he'd done this expert forensic reconstruction for us, it had gone from a sort of a possible maybe a 10-20% claim to a 50% claim. So there are margins in there that make a big difference, and you just somebody's going to fight your corner, but also knows what they're doing with it. I think there are a lot of forgive me for this, anyone who's a PI lawyer as well, run-of-the-mill PI lawyers who deal with generic, most road traffic accidents or something like that with a car. The motorcyclists, it's a very, very niche market with its own sort of quirk, should we call it that? And there's just looking at it, analysing the data and the evidence a bit more specialist than a run-of-the-mill, it looks like they're overtaking. Yeah, well, of course they were. They were allowed to filter. It's that kind of sort of mindset, and also the experience of having pushed cases like that to court and got great results. So you don't need to be a biker necessarily to do that. I'm sure it helps, but having 25 years of experience in my case of dealing with a lot of motorbike claims over the years, that breeds a lot of confidence that you know what you're doing and looking at, because the defendant insurers or the other side solicitors, there's a lot of posturing goes on sometimes, and it's if you're not represented sometimes it's very, very easy to sort of just go, oh my word, I've got to go to court, and you go to court on the day or whatever like that, and all bets are off sometimes.
That's very much how it felt with me in the instances where I've been involved with stuff, is that I've never ever had a solicitor, or I've never sought one. I've just purely gone by whatever somebody said on the end of the phone, and their attitude pretty much instantly, they'll say, do you have it on video? Have you got a dash cam? Is there any CCTV? All that. And if any of the answers no to any of that, they're just like, it'll be a 50-50 at best. And it's literally, oh, you're a biker. It's a 50-50.
Yeah.
I mean, I had one where a guy did a U-turn right in front of me. He turned to look at me, so I thought he'd seen me, so I carried on going, and he just accelerated right in front of me. And in his own words at the scene, oh, I thought I'd make it. And they wanted to go a 50-50 on that, and it's just like, what? That's all his fault.
Yeah, there's there's a lot. There's so many stories I could tell on things like we had one recently where someone had said to the police, "Oh, well, I saw them coming in my wing mirror, but I still pulled out anyway." And his insurance company was attacked. His insurance companies are firmly denying liability completely, let alone even going down that sort of route. So it's a minefield out there. I think there's been a lot of government reform. There's been a lot of cost cutting from the personal injury lawyer's point of view. There's a lot more to it than just the injury claim, of course, which is hopefully something we can go on to talk about. But and I think as a result of that, I think some of the more skilled lawyers have gone off to other areas of law. It's a little bit more lucrative still. And so you don't get the experience and the knowledge that you may have got 20 years ago because of all these reforms. But at the same time, you just having someone who can look at it with a fresh pair of eyes and be a bit ballsy with it sometimes as well. It's really difficult. And I think one of the big appeals of putting this together, I've wanted to really get into the motorbike community and represent them for a long time, because I feel that fundamentally they're underrepresented in all the services that are offered. You say there about, oh, you're a biker, so straight away, it's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. Oh God, well, we're not going to admit liability on a 100% basis for a start, and that's because we look to the accident circumstances. They just stereotypically sort of label you as a biker, and I think it's unfair. You got to take each case on its own facts and its own evidence, and then decide. And we've had some wonderful results over the years that have exceeded our expectations as well. And you just got to find that corner sometimes.
So, as a punter, I get involved in an accident, and say my insurance company go, right, okay, well you're going to be represented by such and such. Can I turn around and go, no, it's all right, I've got motorcycle accident claims? I can just do that. Do I put them in touch with you, or do I go, I'll contact you guys and then you contact them? How does it all work?
We've always got freedom of choice with any solicitor at any point in the process. I'll say that from the beginning. You just have to be careful how it's funded and any costs and what have you like that. The benefit of going through your own insurance company, they may have a tied-in solicitor or legal expense insurer who may not take sort of anything from your damages or anything like that, which is a whole new conversation about how you fund the claims, which for anyone who's listening, just be careful what you are signing and read it carefully. But you can be represented by anyone you want. And I think what we tend to do when we get instructed is that we will contact your insurance company as well as the defendant insurance company, and we'll tell whoever it may well be, look, we're acting on behalf of, sort of Mr. Jones. Please don't do anything to compromise our position. We're involved, keep us involved, and go from there. And we have a good relationship with a lot of the insurance companies, and they'll quite often, if they've got an outlay for your bike that they've just paid out on, they will pass it to us to try and include within proceedings if liability is disputed. So, and that's one of the first things we do. So, yes, you can pass them our details, but one of the first things we'll do if you do instruct us is we'll get in touch with them and say, hello, we're dealing with a claim. Don't do anything stupid and pull the rug out from under our feet, because we've learned the hard way. If we don't do that, people get, go off and do their own thing. And it's a bit difficult to overturn a liability decision that's been made without the policyholder's knowledge or yes or no, really, which is something we find as well. Quite often your insurance company will do what's best for them as a company, not necessarily you. And it can have a ripple effect on everything else sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. I think folks, like my takeaway from having dealt with this on 4 or 5 occasions now is you need to direct stuff. You need to be the pain in the arse. You're the one that has to push things. You're the one that has to question decisions when they're made. And for me personally, the first few times that all this sort of stuff happened, I was a bit nervous about doing that because it's not my expertise field. certainly having somebody like you guys to fulfill that role, and at least have a second opinion, people that I can pick the phone up and just go, this has happened, I've been offered this, or they've said that. Is that right? That definitely would be very handy. Very, very handy. As a biker, folks, you will automatically be the suspect, whether it's not your fault or not. They will lay the blame in your direction. Certainly, that's what they're going to be thinking. That's my experience from it.
Well,
can I? Sorry, go on, Steve. Apologies.
I was just going to say, I think motorcyclists and pedal cyclists as well are always seen as a bit of a. The highway code changed a year or so ago, and they kind of turned upside down the vulnerable road user, and a motorcyclist, horse riders, pedal cyclists, pedestrians. And children, for that matter, now qualify as these vulnerable road users. And I don't mean to sort of turn anyone into a victim or anything like that, but I think that it's good that the highway code and now recognises that, because a motorcyclist is a vulnerable road user. And as I say, I don't think they're properly represented or perceived correctly out there in the modern day of all these fast cars flying around everywhere. Sorry to sort of chip that back in.
I genuinely didn't know that. I knew all the others had been allocated as vulnerable road users, but I didn't realise bikers were under that as well. Maybe I need to read the highway code again. Going back a little bit, Steve, you were talking about like no win, no fee type things. How this? Tell me to get my nose out of it if it's none of my business. But how do you guys make your money then? Do you make your money purely from a membership basis, or are you like a no win, no fee? Should it go to court?
Yeah, well, we're no win, no fee primarily. Okay. The membership plan, which again is free at the moment, that covers off the general, almost like signposting the legal advice to the right specialist who would deal with, whether, as I say, it's a speeding offence, or say someone wants a will or something like that as well. So that's that. From an accident personal injury point of view, we do fund it under a no win, no fee agreement. Wilkin Chapman, which is the firm behind the accident brand, they fund the claim. I think the big distinction between us and others out there is that we don't push you down the route of taking out any extra insurance that you don't need, which is what some do. What we do have to do, because of the way that the government have dramatically reformed our industry over the years, and I know I won't get much sympathy for that as a solicitor, that our fees have been cut and what have you, but we operate on what happens is, the claim settles, the defendant insurer or the defendant has to pay the costs on top of that. Now, depending on how much the claim settles for, will reflect it in the costs that are paid for that. But more often than not, there's a massive shortfall on the cost. So as a result of that, we're allowed to take up to 25%, or what we do anyway, we take up to 25% of any compensation towards our unrecovered costs. Now, that's calculated based on how much time was spent on the file, how much the claim for damages are, and dare I say, just being fair. The whole idea of, and I'm trying not to get on my soapbox here, so bear with me, Bruce, is, for personal injury claims are restorative justice. The idea is to put you back in the position you were as if the accident hadn't happened. Yeah. In most cases, that's damn near impossible. So the other option then is to compensate you. So I don't understand how the government have decided that principle is going to be upheld by us as solicitors having to take a contribution towards our costs from your damages. So get off the soapbox from that for a minute. So that's one way of doing that. So that's how we get our fees, in the sense that we do get some fees from the defendant, the losing party, if you will, but we make up any difference, or try and make up a bit of a difference from any compensation that's there. What I would say there is that if any bikers or anyone with insurance policy has got a legal expense policy that they've added on, that don't go compare or whatever it may well be, or they've got a good insurance broker who's got them a legal expenses policy, you'll find that you may have paid £40 as part of your premium for up to £50,000 worth of legal expenses to deal with a personal injury claim, to maybe deal with the speeding offence. And I think it's a well-kept secret, that. So we do checks, and we check whether or not you've got any legal expense insurance. And if we can get the legal expense insurer to agree to fund our time acting on your behalf, then the injured person gets to keep 100% of their compensation.
Wow.
Is what I much prefer, because I've never liked taking money off someone who's been injured. Because in the good old days, we used to get paid most, if not all, of our costs on top of the damages that were paid out to the injured party. And the government, as I say, have reformed that dramatically over the last 15 years or so, if not more.
It's interesting going back there, what you said about modifications to your bike and you not getting the value of that back in the event that you did get a payout. And that's 100% true, folks. Like, for me, I always put a new exhaust on the bike. So whether it's a slip-on or a full system, you might have spent money having it mapped, or, you might put new wheels on, new rear sets. We always put new toys on our bikes, don't we? But, chances are, even if you've taken out gap insurance, the gap insurance, generally, you'll take that out. Say you pay 15 grand for your bike. Well, you can take out gap insurance, so that in the event of something happening, say a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years down the line, or X amount of miles down the line, when your bike is now only worth, let's say, 10 grand, this gap insurance can bump it back up to the 15. But I don't think that includes the modifications. If you've put a 1,600 quid Akropovich exhaust on it, all that sort of stuff. So you guys take all that into account then?
Yeah, so doing the insurance bit first, just to say, the legal expense insurance might not come with your bike insurance, could come with your bank account or car insurance. So it could come from a number of places. So just because people don't think they've got it with their bike insurance doesn't necessarily mean they don't have it. So that's
do you investigate all that then? Do you?
Yeah. So
sorry, Steve. Apologies.
Yeah. So we'll definitely we'll ask and make sure that we explore as much as we possibly can. For some places, it might not be on their check sheet if you call someone who's in a call centre, for instance. But certainly here, every stage, there's people that will go over, do the checks and balances, and all bike claims are overlooked by Steve anyway. So there's ample opportunity for that to crop up. The gap insurance thing, what I'd say is for bikers, look at your gap insurance. And if you go through a specific bike insurer, like Bimoto, for instance, who do gap insurance, there are products where manufacturers fitted accessories, if you've had the dealer put things on, can be included and things like that. So I think it depends on where you've got it from as to what it'll offer. But even if it doesn't cover it, then like Steve says, it's supposed to put you back in the position you would have been but for the incident. But sad as it is, as I'm sure you'll verify in any job in the world, Bruce, that people are only human, they only know what they know. They might have been looking at a commercial van claim before that, and they picked it up, and modifications haven't crossed their mind. The fact that you're wearing protective gear might not have crossed their mind. The fact that your helmet could cost £1,000 might not even be fathomable to them. And that's where it counts. So every way to try and restore you is explored, and it's not about sticking it to the other side so much. Some people feel awkward, a little bit dirty about this, and like, oh, do I really need to make a claim? Should I? My bike's okay. I'm happy to limp for 3 months, and down the line I'll find out actually it's more serious, because that you'd be surprised the amount of times that happens. Yeah, because
me out. That's all I'm saying. Cut me out.
People feel they don't want to feel like a hindrance.
Yeah, no, true.
It's not until you say, well, it wasn't your fault, should you pay for it?
Well, there is a stigma we're making the claim, whether we like it or not. You hear things banded around like compensation cultures and ambulance chasers and all the rest of it. And moving aside from that, I think until you've been through what you've been through, Bruce, for example, I think your perception of that changes. And God forbid, hopefully a lot of your listeners never have to, but it's sort of one of the situations there. And what I would say, just going back to your point about the modifications and what have you, is that, and this is going back to my experience in an insurance brokerage working in the claims department, is that I would always make sure that you've declared it to your insurance company, whether gap or otherwise. Should they want to get a bit cheeky and decide not to indemnify if unfortunately you're the one who's caused the accident. With regards to challenging the total loss valuations and things like that, I think the best thing to do is just keep the receipts and the photographs. Maybe I know a lot of motorcyclists keep a photo album, almost digital or otherwise, of their bike, and that's very useful, or has been to me in the past when I've challenged them, because I've got a before and after shot. And also, the receipts, invoices and things like that, I can then, they're called uninsured losses, so I can recover those as an uninsured loss claim. Because any personal injury claim, for example, and we're talking about non-fault accidents, you've got two elements. One is general damages, which is the actual compensation for the injury itself. And then alongside that, hand in hand, if you will, is special damages, which is the financial losses, which are all the itemised losses you've got there. Things like helmets, leathers, gloves, smashed iPhone, all those kind of things. And I think it helps me to build your case if in the event it is a non-fault accident, that you've got all these receipts. Well, I only put a new exhaust on it at the last MOT 2 months ago, because it's less than 12 months old, so it's a brand new like-for-like replacement. And with the bikes, I tend to find these days the insurance companies tend to have just an engineer sat at the end of a laptop in the office looking at digital photographs. What I've tended to do and been successful with is I've got a selection of good motorcycle engineers who will send out to inspect your bike, whether it's at the garage, dealership, or in your shed or something like that. They'll do a valuation on it, which is what we can then use to say, well, look, even with the modifications on there, it's worth, it's worth twice what's being offered. And companies have been dragged over the coals in the press middle of last year for underpaying out on total loss claims. So I think it's important to get it right. And where a lot of people have got finance on the bike and haven't got gap insurance, that's even more vitally important, because you can get yourself into a right pickle. And again, it goes back to the point we made earlier about benefit of hindsight, and a wise man learns from another man's mistakes.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm not just saying this because I'm chatting to you guys on here, but I really wish I was aware of either you guys were around or if I was aware of something like this, when I had those issues, because every time I walked away from it worse off. I walked away from it either with a payout for a bike that was worth a lot less than it actually was, or, I got whacked off my bike and just about lost my left arm, but I walked away with a couple of grand, and it's just because I didn't know any better. I was guided by the insurance company, and it's just done. Okay, we've talked a lot about non-fault. What if it's fault? What if I am at fault? Can you guys still act on my behalf?
So again, what is fault? So we've watched videos today where on conversation as a biker, I've gone, why would you ride like that? Why would you do it? Because that's how it sounds. And then I've watched the CCTV and I've gone, oh right, it's not as straightforward. It's not as clear cut. What a lot of people that come to us, and I should point out of all the calls and people we've spoken to since we've started, 9/10 of them are free work, as in we don't gain anything other than helping someone out. So as an idea, it will give you sort of a ratio, if you like, of how much stuff we can assist with.
Gotcha.
Out of the other people that have come forward, there are people that have been told they're either at fault or don't have a claim, which subsequently isn't true because we've now taken something from.
Yeah. And you're not going to take on something that you think there's no future in.
And it's that perspective. But if in the moment, you've done something a little bit tasty and have unfortunately caused an incident, then yes, at that moment, you can still pick up the phone and have your best legal interest protected by someone. That is the case. So, and if nothing else, it will just prevent that. Trying to be helpful, trying to comply, trying to answer questions, that you're asking me questions. So I feel as if I've got to answer it. You've told me I'm wrong, so I must be wrong. And it's just, putting that little bit of support in there to make sure that actually they don't make a scenario that, as you say, as much as you might think something happened, you might think something that happened didn't happen. And you've said, yeah, I'm sorry. So in a fault claim, can they get some support? Absolutely.
Yeah.
If there's anything unfair happening, then again, yes, there's advice as to what can be done about it. And it's not just legal advice, it's insurance advice. It could be advice about, hire vehicle circumstances and fault claims and, anything in that realm. So yeah, people will get support from us that they won't get anywhere else.
Yeah.
Because then, and this is no discredit to them, their business model doesn't allow them to be interested in those things because they don't get paid for it.
Yeah.
So the brand here is very fortunate to be backed by a large, reputable law firm that instead of spending loads of money on, things like Google ads, will put an investment in an upfront sort of investment in the community in order to build relationships. And those relationships come from people that get free advice and get looked after. In every other scenario where they wouldn't know where to turn, or they would just suffer and just deal with it themselves. So yes, they'll get some support that they won't get anywhere else. The extent of the support is very much what's happened in the scenario. So, would you like a lawyer at the end of the phone if you've unfortunately really injured someone and it's not looking good for them? Yes.
100%. Yeah.
If it's a scenario where you believe to the nth degree that you're at fault and you've got no one there, and nobody's explored the fact that actually you might not be at fault, then wouldn't you have had someone there that would and be willing to? And actually down the line, through building those relationships with people, by that point, they'd rather work with people that they know, and albeit they're at fault through the membership, they'll get discounted rates than if they walk through the door. So it depends on where that goes from there, as to whether they might be entitled to, free legal representation because it's a criminal investigation, or whether it's something else, whether it ends up being dispute resolution or whatever. If it's just an accident management firm or a personal injury firm, they won't have access to people that are skilled in those areas. As a multidisciplinary law firm with everything right up to regulatory law that can, take on, government level kind of arguments, the specialisms are within this one roof. So
I think the other thing as well, as we started off talking about a while ago, Bruce, is that, signposting people in the right direction, because you get inundated with, everybody calling you and what have you like that. Quite often, we've got callers who need referred on. You need to go to your insurance company, get your fully comp insurance to at least sort your bike out, get it out of storage, because it's sat in a recovery yard somewhere off the M1. £25 a day storage is ticking by, and ultimately you could end up sitting that bill. If you end up on the end of a sort of driving out due care and attention charge, all of a sudden you'll need signposting to one of one of my colleagues to sort of help you set up a defence to that if it ends up going to magistrates or Crown Court and things like that. And I don't think that message, and this is where this niche I think we've discovered in the market, from our point of view anyway, is out there, because you don't know which way to turn, because hopefully
no, you don't.
With that before. And someone asked me years ago why I wanted to become a solicitor. It's because I want to help people. That's fundamentally what it's about. And it's quite rewarding like that. And as Carl says, we might not be able to, forgive the expression, make any money off you now, but further on down the line, you might need us for a serious accident where we can help you, and also we sort of get a return on that. But at the same time, it's fundamentally just want to help people in what I think is a very, very complex and confusing sort of place where you just don't know which way to turn, because you've got an insurance broker, you've got an insurance company, you've got a finance company, you've got a gap insurance company, and all of a sudden there's lots of fingers in that pie, and in the middle of it, you don't know which way to turn. And by the way, you're in a lot of pain and discomfort, because whether it's fault or non-fault, you're still in a lot of pain, and having just got out of hospital yourself. And accidents do happen with the best will in the world, and that's why you have insurance to pick up the sort of the tab, so you don't have to. And it's and there are just so many different ways to skin the cat these days, and that's again, and I'll keep repeating myself, where knowledge and experience comes into it.
My takeaway from all of this essentially is, if I'm involved in an accident or an incident on the bike, whether I think I'm at fault or I'm not at fault, give you guys a shout and then go from there, because it's it's not going to cost you anything in that initial chat. You're going to point us in the right direction. Obviously you need to make money, but you'll only be making money if you think there is a case there. So folks, I mean, to me that's a no-brainer, surely. So where do they go? motorcycleaccidentclaims.co.uk, that's the website. Looking at it just now.
/TeapotOne for your competition entry, that gives the free legal membership with it. So people don't like calling up their insurer. Like, let's just acknowledge that. It's like, how many miles are you going to do this year? What's the value of your bike? £4.50? All these questions suddenly make people awkward. But when it comes to legal stuff, they just assume, because they've seen American TV shows, that as soon as they pick up the phone, there's a lawyer sat there with an egg timer. Go. And then the invoice starts ticking away, and it's just not true. Like, there's enough people here that good people willing to help, and it doesn't matter what the question is or how silly it is. Like, the point is, we're going to be around. We're going to be in the bike community for the foreseeable future, at the same place as people are. There'll be people pointing and laughing at my agricultural ride, going up and down the motorways. And what world would it be if we didn't have that? Do you know what I mean? And let's be honest, they say it's about making money, but in reality, whatever it is, there's a part of it being reinvested back into the community, whether that's supporting good people that put out great free content like yourself, or charitable organisations. And this forms part of actually just starting charity at home with fellow bikers. It's as simple as that, and if it give you an idea, and I'm not saying this is possible in every case, but someone who just had an argument over bike value had 6 to 8 hours of our time in advising them for nothing that we were ever going to charge an invoice for. and show us a trade where you'll get people out doing that.
Yeah. It's just having a knowledgeable person to fight your corner.
Yeah.
You know, and guide you, because that doesn't feel like it exists. You know, it's not something you worry about. It's not something you think about until you need it.
Yeah,
and as somebody that's had to go through this process a few times, God, it would be so much easier, and I'd have so much more peace of mind just to have, you know, that person, that knowledgeable person there to go, they're pulling the wool over your eyes there, or that's a good deal, that's not a good deal, or we'll deal with this, you know, just because honestly, folks, if you get involved in something, your phone will not stop ringing for the first 24 hours. You just have so many people calling you. You got no idea who half of them are most of the time. And if you could just go, I'm not dealing with this, you know, there's a point. Can you do that? If I, as a punter, can I just go, this is my point of contact, deal with these people?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That was the best. That's the best thing.
Right, I'm signing up. I'm signing up.
The best thing about it, everybody knows who your lawyer is. They're not gonna fall foul of that. So, you know, it's one of those few scenarios where you know that any of the 800 calls that could come from either legit or questionable, you just ignore them all. And unless they're in your contact list, you're not going to miss anything urgent, because if it was urgent, your lawyer will know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I get very upset when people try and contact my clients. So, you know, so I hand them over straight away and send them my way. So.
And they do, though, don't they? Like, people pretend that they are all sorts. They pretend that, you know, they've been directed by this person and that company. And most of the time they haven't. They're just chancing to try and get some business off you.
Yeah, I had that call. The phone rang and they said, "Hi, I'm calling from the claims department." All right. And then they started asking me questions. I said, "Surely you've got this information. Who are you? Who do you actually work for?" And they said, "Oh, we're the claims department for such and such insurance, which is the third party's insurer in your case." I said, "What? And you didn't tell me that up front, like you were going to catch me out." Bye.
Well, they start asking all this private information, and you're like, well, if you're from that company, you should have all that in front of you. It should be there.
I think one of my favourites was from a few years ago, where they used to phone up clients who were already on, you know, that had already instructed us. Well, we've got your money here now ready for you. We just need your details, and then we can pass it over. And it just big. I think they were a London-based dodgy outfit. I don't quite know what they were doing, but we ended up reporting them to the Ministry of Justice. Because we had 5 or 6 clients who had that phone call. But all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, Steve, they said they got my money. How's that happen? And I'm like, I've no idea, mate. They've not even had liability yet. So, you know, and to the uninitiated, and if you don't know what's going on, of course you're going to take it at face value. And who's not going to be interested if someone phones you up and says, "I've got a pot of money here for you. Do you want some?"
Of course. It's human nature, isn't it?
It is, absolutely.
People do that even when they haven't had a claim. I call it that's £1,000 for you, but I just need you to transfer me £5,000 first.
That's right. Yeah.
Then we get my card.
Yeah, that's it.
No, don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's it.
Right. We've been chatting about insurance stuff for about an hour. How do you fancy tackling some questions?
That's far too long.
We need another bit. Well, let's go for it.
Yeah.
No worries. Do you need a rest break or anything? No, you're all good.
Yeah, we're all through.
We're of a certain age. We're men of a certain age. Sometimes we do need to pop away.
Yeah.
Speak for yourself.
All right.
The thing is, it's a polarizing topic, isn't it? You know, the problem is it strikes home for a lot of people, whereas other people will just hear things and go, "Oh, I had no idea. Cheers."
What are we talking about? Weak bladders or insurance?
I was going to say, where are we going with this?
To be fair, mate, it's a universal piece of observation.
Even if I did go to the toilet right now, I wouldn't be going, just as a matter of male pride. So
it's one of them, is it? Right.
I can't admit to it now.
Yeah, not going to be the first one. Stand here and swamp myself. It's got a bucket under the desk.
Absolutely.
Right. We are also sponsored by the Influencer Store. Now, Roger and Charlotte over at the Influencer Store, they've been doing my merch for TeapotOne.com for quite a few years now. I used to use the standard sort of print-on-demand type web-based ones. It was nice and easy to do that, but the quality of the products were 2 or 3 washes and they fell apart. They'd lose their shape, and I wasn't really happy for my brand to be associated with that sort of quality. So I was on the hunt for some better quality merch. I saw Richie Vida stuff and thought, that's really good. Nice quality, really nice print, like the designs. And he pointed me in the direction of Roger and Charlotte over at the Influencer Store. And they've been doing my merch ever since. I get the feedback from you guys when you spend your hard-earned money on the merch and you seem to be happy with it. If you're not, please do let me know and we can feed it back. But I've got some spiel to read out from them. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design. And there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at influencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. And lastly, a massive shout out to all of you over in the clan, over at patreon.com/TeapotOne. Could not do this without all your support, folks. We've got a fantastic community going on over there. Everyone's so supportive of each other. We do the ride outs, we do the meetups, and obviously you guys get first choice for the questions on the podcast. Thank you so much for all your support. I hope you're all still enjoying it. Let's get back to the podcast. Head across to the clan over on Patreon. So it's patreon.com/TeapotOne. Right, these can be quite random, gents. So bear with us. Let's see how we get on here. First one, Biker España. How you doing, Chris? Interesting guests as usual, Bruce. Question 1. What was your first bike after passing your bike test? Well, Steve, what you haven't passed yet, but what will be your first bike?
I don't know. I've fallen back in love with Indians. I was talking to Carl about this earlier. I have to say. Then he told me they were a very uncomfortable ride. So, but I think, no, I've fallen back in love with the Indians. I always liked the Indians anyway, just for the name, if nothing else, as a child.
Yeah.
But again, some of them at Birmingham are just like, bloody hell, they're amazing.
Yeah.
So other bike brands are available for the record, but I think that'll be my first port of call. I think famous last words.
Yeah,
I've only ever ridden one Indian, and that was the Chief, and I absolutely loved that bike for about the first half hour, 25 minutes, half hour, and I was like, oh my god, I think I'm going to have one in my garage. And then literally it was like a switch went, and my back started killing me, my legs started killing me, and it put me off. However, I put a review vid out about it, and so many people got in touch with me and said, no, you can change this, you can change that, just stock, you can buy it with this altered and that altered. And it made me think, oh, maybe I need to find one that fits and then take it, because it was an amazing machine.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because I mean, you were taken by the CCMs.
Oh yeah, there was those two. There was so much eye candy there. It was incredible, really. So and the Royal Enfields as well. So how relatively inexpensive they are as well. And I think that was having been away from motorbike. I used to go to the Birmingham motorcycle shows with my dad as a kid and all the rest of it. And I just forgot how relatively affordable some of these bikes are, So, and I just think, and all of a sudden it becomes a reality again. And as I say, that itches back. And as I say, they scratch before I see you next.
Don't fall for it's the cheap mode of transport bollocks. I did. Oh my God. No, it's not. No, it's not. Especially now, like bikes are 25, 30 grand. Some of the like Ducatis and the BMWs.
Oh, yeah.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. No, I'm
Spec
not
out
sure.
a multistrada, £37,000.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure that's my sort of market, to be honest. But I certainly like the CSMs and
You wait.
Yeah,
we'll have you back on in a year when you've passed your test.
That's it, absolutely. Yeah, have a whole. But the thing is, though, it's like a sweet shop. I want one of everything,
Yeah.
That don't change.
No.
So we've already done your first bike, Carl. That was the Harley, wasn't it?
Sports Tourer, the GSX 1250 FA
First.
ST. And it was heavy, but I could still make it pirouette to the bottom of the A1 right into London. It was great. Although I should point out the top boxes, the panniers took a couple of dings, and on occasion I found the top box was loose on the North Circular. So
Oops.
yeah, we've all done
Oops.
that.
I tell you what, like not top box related or pannier related, but I had to go somewhere today. And I always wear a rucksack. I've always got my rucksack on. Just since I passed my test, I've always worn a rucksack. Yeah. So I got to where I was going. I took the rucksack off to chat with the people when I was there, and I looked, and the top pocket of my rucksack was wide open, and sat there is my wallet.
No way.
I mean, I'd ridden about 35, 40 minutes all the way there with the rucksack open and my wallet just sat there. Yeah. Oh, Jesus. Yeah. I could have gone very differently.
Good, and you're just missing your house keys now. That's the only problem.
Yeah. Nothing important. It's all right. That's fine.
Exactly.
Right. Question 2 from Biker España. What is or what was your favourite bike you've ever ridden? Okay, that's one for Carl.
Do you know what? The Sark PLN 701.
Oh,
And
right.
I haven't, again, I can't reel off a load of reasons other than when I first saw them come out, I wanted one. I never got one. I never rode one. And one night at the Iron Horse in Market Deep in near Peterborough, a lad I know pitched up on one. And I was like, cool, like years ago. And he said, oh, only if I can ride yours. I was like, all right, bye. And yeah, he'd had a custom hand-built exhaust stuck on it. He'd tinkered with the lights, like just the maneuverability of it, how raw it was, and probably how light it was, because I've been riding bigger, heavier bikes. I just loved it to bits. And I think at that moment, because work and stuff gets in the way, and bike becomes a mode of transport to and from the office every day, and you happen to go bike night on the way back, but really you're still hanging from the I was like, ooh, and I think that was the last bike that I got on, had an instant connection, exhilaration, and was like, this is why I did it again. And that was only 18 months ago, and probably that horrible thing that we don't talk about that went on for 2 years had a part to play in it, because whilst I'd borrowed bikes in that time and had fun on them, that was, I think, just timing and circumstance and that bike. And I will have one. I will.
Yeah, a pal of mine has one, or certainly had one a few years ago, the last time I rode with him. Beautiful looking bike, isn't it? It's like really, there's nothing else out there that looks like it. It's really individual, beautiful, striking looking.
Yeah, and it's kind of pulled me into that whole Husqvarna KTM. Like, I find myself now gravitated towards them more and more, and I think it's going to happen.
My favourite bike is still the 1290 Super Duke, the Gen 3 1290 Super Duke R. It's just an amazing machine, awesome machine. If I could just have one, I'm narrowing myself down here. I'm not narrowing myself down. I'm contradicting myself, because I've always said the GS is my do-it-all one bike. And it is actually, the 1300 takes it up a level. But the 1290 Super Duke, that properly puts a smile on your face. It's just a hooligan of a bike. Yeah. Awesome machine.
I've got it.
That'll be your first bike ever, Steve. 1290 Super Duke.
I've been talking, actually. It's I'm going to be on Auto Trader after this.
What could go wrong?
Yeah. But what else can go wrong?
Straight through a wall.
I think out of pride, I've got to swerve that model, because I went out for a ride in the first year of owning my Fat Bob, and albeit it was the 114 and it was torquey and you could throw it about a bit, I had Jimmy Doherty, who's a Bauer test rider, for the magazines and MCA, and Luke Brackenbury, who's head of KTM Street. Jimmy on a 690 Duke, Luke on the 1290 Duke, and me. And let's just say we were going for breakfast, and mine was served last.
Yeah, you've got some competition there.
And half a cup of tea late, and it wasn't for trying. I just didn't know that's what I was getting into.
When you find yourself riding with someone that actually can ride, they know how to ride, it is one of the most humbling and emasculating, is that the right word?
Yeah.
Oh my God. You just walk away, you feel less of a man, and you just think, I can't ride a bike. It's stunning to watch somebody that can control a machine the way good riders do. Phenomenal.
I wouldn't mind if they were using all their limbs at the time, but I think it's like casually.
Looking at you, wheeling like that. Yeah.
Well, we've got some amazing Lincolnshire roads that the firms, but and even on the drive, I spent both my time in a couple of offices, so I've got some lovely drives to have. And you get, particularly in the summer, you see some of the skilled bikers just weaving along, and you just think, how is he control that? Dare I suggest at that speed? But even so, just absolute caps off, because there's some great skill out there. Unbelievable, really. Again, the FOMO kicks in at that point.
There are others that I look at and just go, oh my God. Yeah, like you're just waiting. You're waiting to go and meet your maker. It's going to happen any second.
There's that too. Even I close my eyes sometimes. Not lots of crap, I have to say, but it's fair enough. So the minerals on that person, that's for sure.
Right. Question 3 for Biker Hispania. More seriously. What's the most popular biscuit in the office?
Oh. Well, we've got a Marks and Spencer's near us, and someone keeps going out and getting the chocolate cookies and things like that. They normally go. So yeah, I think that's probably the favourite. But to be honest, I don't think we're that fussy either.
Whatever's in the barrel.
I think we got sent 1 kilogram of chocolate biscuits before Christmas from someone. We put them out in the usual place, and they didn't last very long. So yeah, so I don't think we're that fussy.
Chocolate hobnobs, that's my crack. That is crack cocaine for me. Just I'll smash a packet, no problem.
Yeah, I'm a humble bourbon kind of guy, which probably.
Aye. Yeah. Do you know peanut M&Ms?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I love them. And my missus bought me, it was either for my birthday or it might have been for Christmas, but she bought me like a kilogram bag. You know, you can get them in Costco. And I'm not kidding you. I thought, I'll have the bag here in my office, and, you know, I can just have a couple as I'm editing and that, you know, edit for half hour or edit for an hour, have a handful of M&Ms. I think I smashed it in 2 days, but I could have quite easily done it in 1 day. Like literally just, it's horrendous. Just eat yourself into a diabetic coma. It's terrible.
M&Ms are very addictive, as are wine gums, I tend to find.
Wine gums?
Yeah.
That's a blast from the past. I've not had a wine gum in a long time.
I have to deliberately walk past the wine gums. It's like, you know, it's just so I end up reaching out. It's not good. And as you say, I seem to inhale them as well. You know, that means they're all gone, you know. It's.
Are you of a certain vintage that you remember penny sweets?
Yes, sadly I am.
I mean, remember that? 1p. In fact, I remember half p. I remember having half piece.
Yeah, so do I.
Jesus.
I remember I used to walk home from school. The bus fare was 10 pence. Yeah. And we walk home from school so we could get penny sweets on the way home, or half penny sweets. And yeah, that'd get us home. You know, even if it was raining, we go to the shop after school.
Hang on, can you hear it?
That's
it. Hopeless.
Yeah,
it's a Hovis one. Yeah. Right, cheers, Micro Spaniard.
I should say wine gums have anaesthetic properties, because that got me through all my tattoos. It was advised as a snack whilst being inked. And
what have you got?
Oh, mate. I've gone cliche.
Have you?
Of course, I've got the bike skull. The biker skull. I'm just going to hang this up on my lanyard. I was surprised. I thought that would come off.
To help you say.
I've got the.
What's that?
The skull in a helmet.
Oh yeah, can see it now. Yeah,
of course. Denotes my gambling life choices, shall we say? Clown, because if you know me, like cuddly tiger, 8-ball.
What is it? A cuddly tiger?
Well. It looks, don't you find, all right, the tigers, you'd like to give one like a little like spoken rough around, but you know you're going to get bitten.
Or eaten, yeah.
Well, yeah, I can't run that fast, that's a fact. I've got Houdini.
What's that? What's the significance of Houdini?
Well, I found myself in a few sticky situations, Bruce, but somehow, beyond any explanation, I found a way out. And then, you know, the smoking biker.
Gotcha.
And then man's ruin, less the lady, because I would have got in trouble. So,
blimey, you've gone for it. My brother's just got his first ever tattoo. My brother, at 51 years of age, he had a proper midlife crisis just before Christmas. Didn't tell anyone. Didn't even tell his wife. Just disappeared to Edinburgh for the night. Came back, and he's not gone for like a little tattoo. He's got a full sleeve, literally not a full sleeve, from here all the way down to like his elbow. So the whole top half looks really good. But it's like that's a big statement. That's a bold statement for your first tattoo. All in. I think his wife's just about talking to him.
Did he think? I was going to say, he went away to Edinburgh for him. Did he think he'd get away with it and she wouldn't notice?
I don't really know what his logic was. Like, I was like, how can you have not? Because obviously she got the mega arse about it, understandably. But he was just like, well, you know, I was going to do it anyway. It's like, yeah, but surely you'd at least let her know.
Yeah, I reckon for a couple of weeks he stood like that all the time.
Yeah. You didn't get planning permission.
Mind you, he's had a quiet couple of months. He had a lovely quiet Christmas. So, yeah, maybe it's not all bad.
Yeah, well, part of the plan.
Yeah.
That's it. Right. Cheers for that one, Biker Spaniard. Next one, Michael Cotton. If we were to build a flying motorcycle, what would the legal ramifications be? At what point does a modified bike become illegal? Okay.
I think you'd have to speak to the Civil Aviation Authority about that one, to be honest. That's outside my remit. I've no idea.
Yeah.
It's a bit Back to the Future.
With anecdotal advice is I think it's over, what is it, Bruce? The 249 grams is the DJI drone.
Oh, yeah, for the drone. That's right.
I think if it's over that, you're going to need at least a drone license.
But, okay, he's tagged in a sensible question at the end there. At what point does a modified bike become illegal?
When this is Road Traffic Act construction and use, isn't it?
Mm.
So if
That's a good question.
again from the insurance side of it, it's just got to pass an MOT.
Good point. Yeah.
So that's the motor. They just ask, is it a road
Has it been
legal
MOT?
an MOT? As far as you're concerned, and if you're buying it online, there's always the disclaimer and the terms and conditions you should, and the assumptions. You've got to read through those things. But if it passes an MOT or is capable of passing an MOT, then it's road legal.
Good point.
I think being a typical lawyer, answer a question with a question and say, well, what kind of modifications are we talking about? Because if it's got a big sort of spike on the front of it, then straight away that's not going to be the case. But I think there's safety to anyone else on the road. There's obviously the noise that it's going to create as well, and from an environmental point of view. So I think these days that's a very, very complex answer to a very complex question, which I'd have to go away and get the books out for that one, I'm afraid.
I like putting a serious head on as well here, following on from what you're saying. Mike, I think if, for example, you were to go and get your bike remapped and it's got a significant increase in the power or the torque or something like that, that's definitely something you're going to have to notify your insurance about, isn't it? Because it's...
legal. There's so many levels to it.
Yeah.
Even the DVLA as well, to be fair.
To be legal on the road.
Good point. Yeah.
It's got to be MOT worthy. To be legal from an insurance perspective, your use of it has to be legit and your insurer has to be notified of it. And it has to actually cover what's within the policy for the use. And then, for anything else, is if the rules change in between times, it's whenever those rules come in, like the construction marks on exhausts and things like that, which... We went to the Motorcycle Industry Authority conference last week, and they were saying that the bikers and scooter riders and things like that make up, was it 0.6% of fossil fueled users on the road, but we're the ones subject to phasing out for things and noise on exhaust, and it just kind of makes you think, if you wanted to make an impact, would you go after the 0.6%?
Well, the government, it certainly feels, we've chatted about this load on this podcast, it certainly feels the government in this country are very anti-bike, really anti-bike. Yeah. Whereas it just doesn't feel like that in other countries that I've been in. Germany certainly does feel, they certainly seem to be hammering bikers a lot more than anyone else. But like Spain, God, they just seem to love bikes over there.
Yeah, well, I think it's anywhere. Like, give you an example. We went to a bike rally in France up in the Alps, right? And we're just sat watching everything that's going on. They got stunt bikes. They put bars in the street. There's food stalls. There's music. Just everything. Absolutely phenomenal. In a ski town, so it's like ski town in summer, but everything's bikes. Tens of thousands of bikes. And there's this guy doing, like the arena cross level stunts. And if you've ever been to like a French ski town, they have these wooden barriers, which are basically there so that car drivers that are driving in the snow who can't see the curbs won't take out their time. But they're these wooden things with a flat top, and they're all lined up all the way down this hill. And this guy launches the bike up on top of them and starts riding down them into oncoming traffic, which was kind of queuing going up the hill, because everywhere's so busy and they're all looking at what's going on and not paying attention. There's a cop over the road the other side, and he comes over with this look on the face, and I'm going, oh my God. And he comes over and he went, "Where's your helmet?" And he turned around and walked away, and this guy put his hand up, dropped the bike, put his helmet on, and did it again. I was like,
yeah.
Where would you get that? Where would you get that happen?
Yeah. Isle of Man, maybe. That's about it.
Don't let me start the races still.
Yeah, that's right. Mike, that's most unlike you, mate. It's most unlike you to ask a sensible-ish question. Fair play. Good on you. Maturity. It's finally happening.
Yeah.
Debbie Clegg. Hi, hope you're all doing all right. Random questions. What's your favourite type of music?
Eclectic for me, mate. Like,
Yeah,
I am
that's a
out.
good word for
I
it.
am out
Yeah.
there. I'm well out there. Anything from Garth Brooks through to Foo Fighters and anything.
Garth Brooks, the mass murderer.
Yeah.
Do you watch this? The Two Bears thing.
The first time I saw someone comment on one of his posts, "Where's the bodies, Garth?" I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, not you as well." I looked at it, going on for years. But yeah, the Kinks at the minute, which is one, and what did I put on my playlist the other day? A bit of the Gypsy Kings.
Oh yeah.
Just having the background working away, you know.
Yeah. Got you.
I think mine's equally eclectic. Everything and anything's in my playlists. Recently, I think my go-to, without sounding like a cliche again, is U2.
All right.
I kind of grew up with U2, and I think that's my home comfort, really. But recently, I got into a band called the Seagirls, and it's just random. And I have to say, I've got an 11-year-old son, and we were playing darts in a local darts hall, and they were playing it. And I thought, oh, who's that? And I've got Shazam on my phone.
Oh yeah.
Who he was, and I've disappeared down a rabbit hole with that at the moment. So, but I like fresh stuff like that, and then I find somebody else and I hook onto that. And I have to say, country and western's getting in there a little bit. So
I was just going to say, I've started listening to country as well. Yeah, don't know where that's come from
recently. So maybe not Garth Brooks, but
It's a joke, man. Just from a liability.
I was going to say,
American lawyers.
He's always been my hero.
Yeah. I tie music back to the scenario, you know. Like I got to go to the Foo Fighters tribute concert for their drummer Taylor when he died.
Oh yeah.
Brian Johnson came out, and just more people than you could ever imagine. But I tie it back a lot to biking. So like, the Alps playlist, for instance, like Eric Clapton, Cocaine's in there. You just got so much memories tied to music. So I think
definitely.
More about the moment than the artist sometimes.
Absolutely.
I mean, have you the song "Big Girls Are Beautiful" by Mika?
Yeah.
We've ridden our bike the Mont Blanc tunnel from Italy into France. And we pulled over because we'd been on the bike far too long and thought we'd have a rest stop, shall we say. But the traffic was all queuing on the other side, and on my bike I had these big speakers, and it just started. And people in the traffic jam were like nodding their heads. So
You're sat there on a Harley playing "Big Girls Are Beautiful."
Well, funny enough, when I first met Cal, he told me his favourite song was "I Feel Pretty." I feel so pretty.
Tells you all you need to know.
It does indeed, yeah. We're still talking, thankfully, but there you go.
He's a good-looking lad. We're not made of wood.
Yeah, he's annoyingly good-looking. He really is.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Debbie also asks, do you think it's distracting to listen to music while you're riding? What's the stupidest thing you've ever done? Okay, so 2 questions. Distracting listening to music, and what's the stupidest thing you've ever done?
What's the stupidest thing I've done whilst listening to music? Are they 2 separate questions? Again, being
I would say 2 separate questions.
I think you've got to. I think we all like music whilst we're running, driving, walking, riding, whatever it may well be. And I think as long as you can hear what's going on around you, I don't think there's a problem with that. Sort of all, police sirens, for example, ambulance sirens, those are prime examples. And as for what the stupidest things I've ever done, I couldn't possibly tell you. Because I'm not prepared to admit to it. So, I'm going to plead the fifth on that one, I think.
We can be friends with an answer like that.
That's it, yeah. Well, you don't know what hurt you. That's all I'll say. Over to you, Carl.
So I think the music thing is about perspective and capability, and probably your fitness at the time was probably a lot. Because if you say hearing is really important, I'll say to you, well, what about a fighter jet? Maybe I'm just a bit of a div like that. But I do listen to music an awful lot, and sometimes wearing earphones rather than noise cancelling ones, obviously, because I can't hear anything anyway. I'd like to think I have the observation enough to know that if I had to move out of the way for someone, but that's what everybody will say, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But I am a fan of being able to hear something over nothing at all. I'd say that. But then I've ridden with some people, like you say, who know how to operate a bike, and them not being able to hear isn't going to change that. Actually, would I rather still be able to hear in a few years' time because I've not had all the wind noise and just some 2 bob earplugs in that don't really block anything out anyway. And can most people hear? What if you work in a factory all day and you're from the days when you didn't wear hearing protection and you can't hear as good as me anyway? Like, I think it's fine. And arguably sometimes it's made me more aware of what's going on. So also I think
I'm going to give a free plug here. I'm not being paid at all to say any of this, but I was sent a pair of earplugs, Eggs. I'd seen them on Instagram, loads. Eggs earplugs. They contacted me and said, do you want to try a pair? And I up until that point, I've been using these Auritech ones, you know, the little orange rubber cones. I've just been using them. I think they were about 19 quid or something. I bought them on Amazon. So I said, well, I use these. What are they any different? And they were just like, look, we'll send you a set, try them and see what you think. I didn't hold out any hope for them. I thought, well, they're not going to be any better than the Auritech ones because they do the job. They're bloody brilliant. Honestly, I've got no idea how much they cost. Eggs, EGGZ, I think it is. Awesome. Like, it takes the wind noise when you're riding, but you can still hear. Like, I can hear what's going on round about me. It's cracking. Really, really good. So, unless they're about 90 quid, folks, like, try them. If they're like 20 quid, they're well worth the punt. Anyway, sorry.
How much are your ears worth?
Well, I spent my own money on molded what do they call them, like headphone type things for the bike, so I can plug them into my car door, because when I'm away on tour with people, we've got the car doors going, so people are chatting, and it's handy to be plugged into that so you can hear what's going on. And I got the top of the range ones, because it's, you know, it's a business expense, isn't it? So it's 320 odd quid, whatever it costs, 340 quid, I think, in total. Well, that's 340 quid I'm not being taxed on, isn't it? So you spend it. And I tell you what, it lasted 6 weeks, and then one of the headphones broke. They replaced it, no problems at all. And I wore it for most of the last year. I can't wear them anymore. I feel really, they go right in, they block everything out, and I just felt sick. And I found, like, my job is obviously talking shit on camera. You know, when I'm riding around, I'm vlogging. But because I'm plugged in so much, I couldn't hear how loud my voice was. So a lot of the commentary is too quiet. So you know, I'm having to boost it up, but then that boosts the background wind noise. So the audio's terrible. So I've just gone for these cheap, like 15, 20 quid earplugs. Way better. Brilliant.
I think it definitely comes back to comfort. I've been through, I can't even tell you how many different types of earplugs, or you know, like hearing protection or earphones. And the majority of them do give you that earache. Even molded ones that I've had, you feel this pressure on one side of your head there, and after a couple of hours, you're like, "Wow!" You know, it's like the argument about what kit do you ride. You know, what kit do you wear when you ride? You know, dress for the slide and all that sort of stuff. But what if it's massively uncomfortable and doing you no favors and distracting?
There's no point.
So, but I'd love to hear about new earplugs, mate. Definitely.
Genuinely, like the little Auritech ones, they're great. They are good, and I'd have no complaints about them until I tried those eggs, and those eggs are definitely better. But I don't know how much they are. I genuinely don't know how much they charge. I think the Auritech are like 17, 18 quid. So, you know, eggs would need to be around that mark to make it viable. But I'd definitely go eggs if they're the similar sort of price. Brilliant.
If you ever go and watch live music, try test them out then as well. Because if you know when people are shouting at you at a public concert or whatever, if you've got those in, you can hear people. So
I was a bouncer when I was at uni in Glasgow. I worked the doors there, so I was a bouncer from like 94 to 2000. And as well as being like a club, it was also a major concert venue. So it's like they played there before they went and played like the SECC or Wembley, or, you know, and they played there on the way back down as well. So you have massive bands in the 90s playing there. And as a bouncer, you were literally stood next to the amps. And I did that for years with no hearing protection. But now you just get tinnitus now, don't you? These things just ring. I remember like not hearing for 3 days. Literally all I could hear was noise. You know, that's not good.
It's like if you went to Brixton Academy or whatever back in the day. And near the front, you come out, and by the time you'd got off the train or tube, wherever you're going, I don't know. Next day, just in bits.
Right, cheers for that one, Debbie. Next one, Wedi Moto. Hi, gents. Hope all is well. Have Brewdog got in touch yet? They bloody well should. The amount of royalties you'd get from the times it's mentioned. Anywho, no, they've not. They've not at all. But thank you anyway who sent me them. I've just had another crate of beer turn up, and
Yeah.
I think it's somebody who's asked the question here, someone in the clan. But it's a crate of Birra that's turned up.
Nice.
Oh,
Nice.
I tell you what, I don't make any money out of the podcast, but I get sent beer, so you can't complain with that.
I've had an extension to put it in.
Yeah. So Wadey asked, question 1, biggest pet hate whilst on the bike that another road user may do. For example, cars pulling into the middle of the road to prevent filtering. Biggest pet hate. Or driving then, Steve, because obviously you're not on the bike yet.
I think my biggest pet hate is the inability to use an indicator. Just to give us an idea of what you're thinking. Are you turning right? You're turning left? You're going to go round the roundabout? You're going to come off with the first exit? And I don't think that matters whether you're on a pedal bike, a motorbike, or in a car. It's it's one of my pet hates. It is the lack of an indicator. It will, it'll send me over the edge. It really will.
Yeah, I'd go with that.
Yeah. I'd definitely staying in the right lane on the motorway when there's 9,800 signs that say merge in turn. And I don't want to throw any particular category of driver under the way, but there is a certain larger vehicle wielding type that tends to do this more, which I don't get because you ain't getting there quick anyway. So just accept your life choices is what I would say. But on the bike, and I don't know, maybe it's me. But when
you're the most annoying fan ever.
There is that chance. But you know when there's a queue of traffic on the left-hand side, and you need to borrow a bit of the oncoming traffic's bit. And I don't mean that you've got the centre line, and most of the bike is still left of the paint. But for whatever reason, no matter how big that other lane is, there will be someone that is still 3 miles away from me that goes, like that, as if I'm supposed to queue. And I've done it on all sizes of bikes, so it's not just the tank, because I could imagine that being a little bit unnerving. I've also done it on an equivalent 125cc electric scooter that made some incredible bing bong noises if you were ever unfortunate enough to have to stop at a traffic light where you were indicating because everybody knew that you were. I've done it on all sorts, but no, there seems to be a number of people that don't like it and are over the top.
You see it all the time, don't you? Especially when you filter, you get people who do that. People who they'll either try and they'll move in their lane to try and block your way, and you're just like, why do that?
Yeah, ridiculous. If we go into cities on a ride, if we go wherever for a ride, and you get up to the traffic lights, and there's a cycle box, the entire cycle box being occupied, not just by cyclists but potentially scooter riders as well.
Yeah,
and I look down and I go, I've got 3 times the size of your engine here.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think is going to happen? But it's just that awareness, I guess, is the thing. Yeah. Awareness is the worst thing that I see on the road. People thinking that there's some entitlement to it. Definitely see it all the time.
People can all go on and on about it, coming really.
They don't reform anything. There's no ethical guidebook for it all, is there? You've got the highway code, but I've never read anything that says, just potentially rule number 1 is maybe don't be a dick.
That should be number 1 in life's rule book, shouldn't it? Don't be a dick.
Yeah, just modernize them. If you're having a bad day, you should maybe check rule 1 twice.
Yeah. Rule 2 should not be a dick. There we go.
That's in the highway code here, right? Yeah.
But I just think that would land with people.
Question 2 from Wadey. In the insurance industry, it's well known that some processes are dragged out to expand the wallet. Do you ever see a reform coming to try and reduce this kind of behaviour from companies with their extortionate hire fees, etc.? Well, we touched on this before. It definitely does happen, for sure. Yeah. So, can you see this being governed at all? Or?
Well, I think that probably provokes a couple of answers there, really. I think, and again, I'm going to defend the solicitor in amongst all of this. We've been hammered over the last years, and I've said this already, by fixed costs being introduced. So I think that the perception years ago that it was in our best interest to drag the case out because we got more on an hourly rate or something like that, that's gone. It went a long time ago. If anything, we probably go above and beyond with the extra costs to make sure that you've not undersettled your case, even though the fees have gone off the chart and we're never going to get those back, because we've got to balance that. So there's that from defending the legal community. With regards to the hire claim, absolutely. I've seen that all the time. I recover a lot of hire car charges as part of claims, and as long as the due diligence and what have you has been done, then it's fine. But I do think there is an element of that. The reforms are, you've got people like the GTA, Foil, and various other insurance, sort of companies or interest parties deliberately trying to fix or drive this into like a tariff type situation. And you've got the courts as well, because when people go to court, you've got an overriding duty to mitigate your losses. So you can't have an ongoing hire claim running up £50,000 because when your car's only worth 8 or your bike's only worth 15, because surely at some point by the time you've incurred all those charges, you could have bought a new bike. So I think it's definitely something that is on the radar. It's going through a lot of scrutiny at the moment, and I think you'll probably find it's very quiet at the moment, but it is an area of the insurance industry that's being absolutely hammered because it's driving premiums up. Insurance companies are claiming that getting parts for cars or bikes is taking longer, which is extending the hire. And as a result of that, they're keen to try and sort of nip it in the bud and deal with it, because that's what's really, really hurting them. And at the moment, the insurance companies are getting listened to because they're a big lobbying party. So, but it's an area that has been, as long as I've been in practice, has always been hammered and being regulated. And I think that will continue for a long, long time yet to drive it down. And I think it's probably the next big thing in this kind of sort of area of law and insurance law that'll be refined, I think. And I think that'll be an ongoing practice as well. Because I do think it is, sort of an area where people in the past have thought it's licensed to print money. And I think, the time is very much set on them now, if that answers that question.
Yeah.
I was just a way to ask if you're going through this process at the moment and you're not happy with, how you're being treated, or you've got suspicions things are being dragged out or something. I was going to ask, is there somebody you could call? But obviously it's you guys, isn't it? Is that right? Just give you a call. Right. Okay.
There is a bit of practical advice around it as well, and it's people tend to want cheap insurance, and brands that recently have demised, they didn't, had some problems, but people were happy to take something cheap on face value because it suited their circumstances. And part of this is like the insurance industry's fault of old, because there was mis-selling and all sorts, so it had to be heavily regulated but for decent brokers, of which there are very few, that there's not really anyone trying to change the narrative on it. And it's because you feel you're paying for a bit of paper that doesn't do anything for you.
Necessary evil.
Necessary evil. And again, you have to buy it, so you're not really too interested.
Yeah.
But when the time comes, there's a bit of a question that says, would you rather have paid that 300 quid, or do you want to pay the 18 grand to replace your bike? Do you want to be sued for the money where you've hurt someone else? And if the answer is no, people would tend not to bat an eyelid, because they pay similar money insuring their house or car or whatever. All of those things are kind of, people I've known are happier to insure their car at 500 quid than they are their bike. But the reality is you're at more risk on a bike, and you have modifications and kit and all this sort of stuff we spoke about. But just, yes, price is important, but just look at people that are going to do a good job for you. I know
definitely.
Like, there's good guys out there, brokers that I mentioned before, for instance, where they do take a vested interest in the claims journey, but not everyone does. And that's because that claims journey is normally tied into car, commercial, van, whatever else. So it's just seen as one group of people, when of course we know it's not. So you got to, be happy with your broker. They do add value. And when it comes to the sort of the whole rigmarole, if you like, of whether it's going to be regulated or under scrutiny in the future, a lot of that is going to depend on data from complaints. Yeah, most
people actually complaining.
Most people will just put up with it. And actually, if you make a complaint, in most cases, there's good people that want to try and help you out to get it done. That's my experience from being in the industry. And I should say, I owe the industry nothing, by the way, so I'm not saying it blindly. But data is everything. And if they know there's been problems, they'll look into it. And if that data isn't there, what are the regulators going to pick up on? And people don't chase enough as well. But you're right. If you have someone that's looking after you and they're on it, they'll be on it all the time. And it just takes a job away from them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think with the insurance thing, you're right. You don't find out how good the insurance company you selected is until you have to claim.
So you need them,
and that's, in most cases, you hope that you never have to find out how good your insurance company is. You've sort of got away with it, if I can call it that.
Yeah. Cheers for that one, Wadey. I am not going to ask your third question, but he's got a little joke for us. Finally, what did one arse cheek say to the other? If we stick together, we can stop this shit. Jesus. That's the caliber of where you are just now, gents. Just saying.
I was gonna. Well, if you're asking us that, I'd love to know what the third question was.
No, I'm not asking that question. No way. There's two more questions. Are you okay for time?
No, by all means.
Awesome. Right, next one. Chris in Dubai. How are you all? All good, thank you, Chris. Question about insurance. With hiring a bike, or a car for that matter, recently I've been told that I need an international driving license when I hire a bike, or the insurance could be void. Is that true?
Oh, that's a good question.
From travel experience, mate, depends on the provider. So there are certain territories that have facilities that will only rent to locals or domiciled humans. I would say that Europe Car and Enterprise and the Alamo and places like that would have lost an awful lot of business if I haven't used them. I think the scenario they're talking about is probably the person that works away 6 months of the year. And sometimes people get confused with, I've got 90-day touring cover on my bike, but I'm going to be in Portugal for 6 months. Why won't you cover me? And that 6 months is the sweet spot for certain international agreements for the driving license and the international driving permit, or where they have to submit their license to get a license in that country. So I would say for those people that work outside the country for a long time, but for a period of time, should we say, that if they have a permanent address that is suitable for the service of documents, and if they have an address that they have year round where they can keep and register a vehicle, over time, they would be classed as someone that lives in that country. I think a lot of the time it's just people not understanding what position they're actually in and saying something to someone who is probably trying to help but isn't trained in it, because they're used to selling people that live in the country insurance every day, and on their tick sheet it says no if you don't live there. But definition of live, like if you're there 6 months of the year and you have an address there, do you live there? It's fair to assume that you would, but just check. There is, and it's not the person that answers the phone that usually answers that question. You've got to go to them with what the insurers say about it in their T's and C's and present it back to them before they'll insure that. But we used to get a lot of questions over here, people that were from Europe and living in the UK for 6 months. But they'd say, I'm only here 6 months, and but it would depend on the T's and C's of the insurance.
We used to get that in the old bill all the time when people would produce their driving license, and it wouldn't be a UK one, but they're domicile in the UK, but they're still working off of whatever driving license they've got.
But that's a way of skirting around it. That's why they make those rules, because they just keep the car that they brought over for years.
That's it.
How long have you been here? Since Friday, which was true because they might come back on Friday, but they went for 2 days and came back.
Yeah, absolutely. Chris, my experience, mate, I've hired cars all over the place, and I've always done it off a UK driving license. That's never been an issue, but as Carl said, maybe Chris is in Dubai. He has a Dubai driving license, so you might be in that boat where it could be sticky as to whether or not you live in the UK or live over there. Next one, Ravenshead Rider. This is the last one. What's your favourite chocolate brand? As far as I'm concerned, there's only two, so it's a choice between Galaxy or Dairy Milk. Unless you can think of, that's a bit restrictive. What's your favorite brand? But there's only two.
Well, the brand might be Cadbury's, for example, and they've got a whole but favorite chocolate, I think I have to go with off the cuff. It's got to be a Snickers or a Twix.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's no nonsense, that. No nonsense, straight in.
Oh, Yorkie, it's not for girls. I might offend a few people with that approach.
Yeah, great. Well, I'm all about offence. Yeah, happy days.
They got trouble for that, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
But would you go plain chocolate Yorkie or the fruit and raisin one?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I'd have to go plain, but I do like a fruit and raisin, but I think plain you can't go wrong with. Yeah.
Gotcha.
And I have to put them in the fridge as well, so they're half frozen.
Yeah, it's like not quite as sadomasochistic as a Toblerone in the fridge, but it's getting there, isn't it? You got to work for your money there.
That's it. Yeah, have to go away and get it taken out of the roof of your mouth.
That's it. Yeah.
I'm not sure I like that these are the most difficult questions, if I'm honest.
Weren't expecting this.
I'm not sure what that says. I mean, I like that. Yeah.
You're going to tell me with your choice of chocolate says something about your sexual preference or something.
I think the dairy milk's a solid choice, but it can't be warm. But then at the same time, not wanting to be like,
Controversial.
pleasing everyone about it, but I do quite like an orange Galaxy. So I'm not really.
Oh, okay.
And I never thought.
That's a Harley rider in you coming out, that is, isn't it? That's what that is.
There's orange in it. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe if I ditch the bike, it might change. But I don't think you can go wrong with the dairy milk. But I don't like the fact that they've made them smaller. Because now I have to.
Ridiculous, isn't it?
Now I have to buy the £1.35 bar. I've got no choice.
I'll make the choice. I'll make the choice if it's small or not.
Yeah. And why do I prefer the 12s in the bag of 12s that is blatantly less than if I just bought a 12 and it's 5 times the price? I don't know.
Your question from Bruce, out of curiosity.
I'm a Cadbury's whole nut. That's my choice.
Yeah.
Love a bit of whole nut.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I can't think the last time I saw one of those in the shop.
Oh God! It used to be a weekly ritual. In fact, who am I kidding? It was like a every couple of day ritual. But I've specifically not been buying them just to try and stop that. So I can't. Yeah, actually, I can't remember the last time I saw one. Now thinking about it.
I mean, not that. I mean, it's probably giving away the amount of time I spend looking at the Cadbury products. But like, it's got to be a supermarket job, and I can't even think then when I've seen one.
Too busy looking for what was it? Your orange what? Galaxy.
I'll tell you what jumps out at me is the cost, the sale sign first, and then I happen to notice that it's in amongst it. Because actually, if you put me down to it, I don't mind the Aero bubbly orange either.
An Aero's just like it's like a non-event.
Yeah,
it's just I always feel like I'm being shortchanged with an Aero. So no.
It was that big in the shop.
Yeah.
It's just all air. Come on, where's the chocolate?
It was a flat lilo before it started.
That's it. Yeah. Right, chaps, that is us. We've done all the questions.
Perfect.
Did you think you'd be answering questions about chocolate and what else have we had? Chocolate, music.
Craziest thing you've ever done?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Listening to music.
Yeah, I forgot that. But the answer is leaving the cruise control on and forgetting it was on and looking as if I was stopping at people I passed. It was a mechanical cruise control I got off of Valley Express, sorry. And I thought I don't know what I was thinking. I just said, I've missed where I was going to pull over, so I had to go all the way down the road.
But you'd look cool doing it on the Harley, obviously. No one would have seen you or heard you, obviously.
I mean, I had a smooth on, but under my face was horrified. My eyes gave everything away. It was very American. But the thing is, it is a dry, boring topic, unless you've had something happen to you, in which case very, very close to your heart. So the other questions are welcome to break it up, really. Yeah. But it's hard not to go into it because it is so involved, and it's in the mystery that lies the pain,
Yeah. I think we've only scratched the surface as well, Bruce. I think there's so much more detail you could go into, and you probably lose your listeners, and certainly have a good night's sleep. That's for sure.
But that's very true in this side of the whole insurance accident world. It's not something you ever think about until you need it, and then when you do need it, honestly, folks, if you've not been in that situation, having this service that Mac are providing. Do I call you Mac or do I call you motorcycle accident claims?
Mac Attack.
What Mac? Mac Attack. So having this company there, like a one-stop shop, it will take the grief and the uncertainty out of the situation at a time. You just something happens. Obviously, I take it you in the event of an incident. Who's my first port of call? Do I call my insurance company and tell them I've been involved in an accident, or do I call you?
So what we've said is you'll probably encounter emergency services before you get through to anyone. Get to a safe place, call the emergency services. If you know for certain, and this is a very important point, for certain that someone else isn't already on the phone to them, because sometimes people assume that they're being called and they've actually called their mum or whoever the other part.
Yeah.
So you want to be in a safe place, and you want to be in the comfort of knowing that medical assistance and the police are on their way. And if they're not there in the time that you're on the phone to our guys, then you've had that time to collect your thoughts and everything like that, and you'll probably find the experience is a lot more bearable by just having that impartial shoulder to lean on, and everything that goes with it. And again, this is not disparaging to any of the insurance companies or who they have looking after claims for them or anything like that. Depending on the time of day, you could end up waiting. And depending on who you speak to, it could end up taking a while. And at that point, you could be getting your bike recovered and going to a predetermined location that you might not be able to intercept or even consider or whatever. Also, if you call them and you're on the phone to them right up until the point you end up going away in the ambulance or whatever, you've missed the evidence gathering opportunity. That someone at the end of the phone will say, have you got everybody's details? Have you taken some photos? Has anything been said by anyone and have you written it down? You know, whose phone are you on? Are you on yours or not? No. Are you able to record what's going on now, for instance? You know, even just putting your phone on record, sticking it in your pocket as a record of what's gone on. Because people may come, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see you. Thanks very much. You know,
you've got it.
It'll be too late to add that value if they're waiting. And again, you know, you might want your insurer to deal with it. You might want them to recover it, whatever. But at least you've had the opportunity to consider it, which most people don't.
So, I think my only addition to that is just that, you know, whether it's immediately or the day later until you've got home or I've had a, you know, time to sort of process what's just happened to you. Because I think a lot of people go into shock, understandably, is that, you know, we can just give you the options that are out there. And I think that's the confusion here, is that someone might speak to you first who's got a bit of an agenda directing you down a particular route. We haven't got that agenda. So we can just say, well, look, I mentioned before about skinning the cat several ways. Here's the options available to you. Which one are you happy with? Which one do you prefer? I think that's quite important, really, before you get bamboozled by someone who, you know, dare I suggest, has got a bit of an agenda, as I say.
Yeah. I'm the type of person that's quite sceptical in that situation. So if I think somebody's selling me a wronging, I kind of switch off, really. I just don't take in the information because I'm just like, nah, not interested. Sorry, just to clarify there then, from what you lads were saying. So in the event of an incident, obviously it's going to be 111 or 999, depending on the severity of the incident, whatever's appropriate at that time. And then you guys, it would be phone you. Right, okay.
Get support there and then. And just for people who are uninitiated, if your bike's in the live carriageway, it's 999 every time. And they'd much rather have that call. Don't wheel it off the road and assume that everything's done, because if you've left your headlight broken to a million pieces in lane 1 and someone else has an accident, you've missed an opportunity there.
Yeah.
But it's as soon as practical, really, from a safe place. And at which point can we add value? If you're sat on a claim that's 2 or 3 years old now, and you just want to sound someone out, then give us a call. If there's value to be added, we will. If you're in a good place but you're just frustrated with the communication, we'll say to you, speak to your solicitor. If you let them know that you're frustrated, no, I've just sat quiet. Well, we'll try there. You know, like we're not looking. There's no way that we're going to take on the whole world and be the best for everybody, and you know, in all those circumstances. But if we can help you, we will.
Yeah.
Sometimes we can just be there, as you say, just as a sounding board as well. You know, we don't want to step on anyone's toes, but sometimes just that you know, you sort of say you switch off when you speak to someone who thinks trying to pull your chain or whatever. You know, we can just be a useful sounding board that, well, actually, that doesn't sound quite right, actually. Do you want to send me what you've got and I'll have a look at it for you? Or, no, actually, that unfortunately, that's the way the law's changed now, and that's quite correct. It just gives them that peace of mind, I suppose. Because once you've done or agreed to something in settlement, whether it's for your bike, for an injury claim, or whatever it may well be, 9 times out of 10, that's your full and final settlement. And once you've drawn that or signed that on that dotted line, you can't go back and change it. And it is, as I say, we keep talking about benefit of hindsight, and then there you are.
Yeah. And so if you do end up going through a claim with Mac representing you, you will have someone outside the legal team that is a biker that will call you and will talk to you just about stuff. So if that's what you want, and you know what it's like, again, well, that person's a lawyer, I don't really feel comfortable speaking to them in this way, but just that soft voice that has got no agenda with you other than making sure you're looked after and you're happy. And Mac's the only brand that offers that. You just speak to them, what you're doing this weekend, you know, I'm not sure whether I'm getting back into biking or not. I'm just not too sure. Well, there's a show here, you know, come down and see us, or I'm looking at getting a new bike, but I'm frustrated. My dealer won't do me a deal on it. Well, let us introduce you to someone, you know, those kinds of things. But more often than not, the simple frustrations are addressed in those basic, like, rapport calls, if you like, just to say, how are you getting on? How are you? But they wouldn't have been, because they wouldn't talk about it with someone that was looking after the league. So.
Well, I'm convinced. What was the competition that you're running? Can you just remind people about that for me?
Yeah, so on the Sunday of the MCN London show at the Excel, we'll be drawing a competition for a Yamaha XSR 700 Legacy Edition, brand new from Hunt's Yamaha. we'll be giving away a Technologic DC2 Pro camera, a bunch of Oxford clothing, boots, jeans, shirt, gloves, that kind of jazz. Total value over 10 grand RRP. Free entries by subscribing to the email list for Mac at www.motorcycleaccidentclaims.co.uk/TeapotOne. And they'll also get a free legal membership just for entering.
Links down below. Links down below.
And free entry into any future subscriber competition. So well worth it. And the odds are way lower than the lottery, for instance. So someone will be very happy come the 18th of Feb at about 4:05 when they get a phone call.
Mint. Awesome. Folks, you got to be in it to win it. And it's kind of a win-win, that, really. There's no lose to it.
Yeah, it's always the polarising thing. People are like, I don't want that. It's like, it's free, sell it.
Yeah.
I don't like those gloves. Well, give them to someone.
Yeah, I know. Chaps, thank you very much for coming on. Before we go, is there anything else you want to say? The floor's yours. You can say hello to your mum if you want. It's fine.
Well, I was just going to say, what bike are you getting next? Yeah, what bike are you getting next?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I've got a new 1300 downstairs, 1300 GS.
I know, maybe you've been on a GS for donkeys.
Mate, best bike in the world, pal. Best bike in the world.
I don't disagree. I'm just curious if you had your eye on anything.
I was thinking, there's a few things I was thinking about. If that new 1300 didn't tickle my danglies, then yeah, I certainly could have seen something orange in the garage for sure. But that 1300 is a mega machine. Mega machine. So far, it's not blown up yet or burst into flames yet, so we'll see.
Yeah. Half full or half empty?
Well, there's a recall, I think, at the moment on the starter relay. Well, it might not be a relay yet, but there was an incident where a couple of bikes burst into flames because the starter relay failed on some of the earlier bikes. And mine, I think mine was the first in the UK, so I don't even know if mine's involved or not. So pass, no idea. But it's not blown up yet, so we'll see.
Yeah. If you had £2,000 to spend on a bike on Facebook Marketplace or other portals, what would you?
£2,000.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm looking for inspiration more than anything.
Asking for a friend.
Do you know? For £2,000, it's obviously it's going to be a hack, isn't it? It's going to be a bike that you just you just want to get on and ride. I would look for something. It's old, it's dated, but I would just look for like a Bandit. Something like a Bandit or a Hornet, where you for £2,000, it's an older bike, so you're going to get for that money, you're going to get hopefully one in reasonable nick for £2,000, and parts are cheap as chips. So I would go for something like that for £2,000 price tag.
Yeah, you can't afford. The thing is, though, they appear so desirable that they are more expensive than the likes of a probably slightly less better for wear S-Rad.
Good point. Yeah, good point.
But yeah, I just at the minute there's tons of them out there. I don't know if it's winter or ULEZ or what, but all of a sudden there's some good looking bikes for not a lot of money.
Is there?
Yeah.
See, I'm a PCP fiend. I see the shiny new bike and go, oh, I can afford that for however much a month, right? That'll do.
Yeah,
so you never actually own it.
I've been born again biker in the past couple of years because I had a car that was there that I was paying for, which was just a waste of money.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about bikers' first mode of transport all year round. Not that I wasn't, but I would just take that comfortable choice more often than before.
Yeah.
And now I'm like, I don't know if I should have like more bikes that I care less about.
If you don't care about them, then what's the point of having them? That's the way I look at it.
I mean, it's still fun, right? I just don't.
Well, yeah, it is.
I don't mind if it's got a few more battle scars.
That's a good point. I've got a proper shitty 125 in the garage that's proper ragged, but that's still a scream. Need to get that back on the road, actually.
What do you reckon to electric bikes?
Oh God, this is a whole new podcast. I think EVs are done. I don't think there's any future in EVs. I think it's been something they've pushed, and then now they've realised, well, we can't actually do this. It's not going to work. Hydrogen. I firmly believe now hydrogen's where it's going to be. That's what I'm thinking. But EV bikes, great fun. Totally impractical, great fun. But I don't think it's something we're going to have to worry about.
I was flat no, because I'm obviously into the noise and the feel and everything that feels like you're being dragged along by fuel propelled vehicle.
Yeah.
And I don't know, like we were quite near the Moto Soco stand at Birmingham.
Yeah.
And there's this thing called the Stash that just looks unreal. And it's a 125 rapid.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't know how I feel about it.
They've got their place. You know, if you want a commuter bike, then electric's great. You know, if you can get that interchangeable battery, fantastic, brilliant. Yeah. But I just think as an alternative to fossil fuel vehicles, where everything is electric, it's just never going to happen. We haven't got the infrastructure, we haven't got the lithium, we haven't got the chemicals and minerals that are needed to produce the battery. It's an ecological disaster to make them and then to dispose of them afterwards. So what's the point? You know, it's just, there's no point robbing Peter to pay Paul. In fact, you're giving Peter a fucking good kicking. You're not even robbing him. So I think there seems to be big advances in hydrogen. Kawasaki. Kawasaki have launched a hydrogen bike now, which would be a massive step forward if that actually works. Yeah, well, that could be pretty massive. Yeah. We'll see. But that's a different podcast. That's another 3 hours. Chaps, thank you very much for coming on. It's much appreciated. Folks, if you've liked what you've heard, then please check out the links for Mac down below. Obviously, enter that competition. The links will be down there, so make sure you get involved with that. And chaps, thank you very much for coming on. Hugely appreciated. It's been a pleasure chatting to you. I hope I never need your services, but it's nice to know you'll be the first port of call if I ever do.
Go safely, everyone.
Cheers. All right, folks. Hope you've enjoyed this one. Keep doing your thing. Look after those that you love. Get on out there and live your life. Woo-ha! Cheers, boys. Right, let me stop that.